Hey everyone, and welcome. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for this explainer because today we are going to dive into what I honestly think is one of the most mind-blowing journeys in all of human biology. We're literally going to track a single ray of light from the outside world right through the hardware of your face and straight into the intricate machinery of your brain to see how we actually perceive reality.
You know, there's this really famous quote by Lyle Wertenbaker: "The eye is the window to the world." It sounds beautiful, right? But as we're going to see today, calling it just a window is kind of doing a massive disservice to the incredibly dynamic biological machinery at work here. It is so much more than just a passive piece of glass.
So I want to challenge you right off the bat. How much do you really know about what happens the exact second a photon crosses the threshold of your eye? Because it doesn't just, light up a little movie screen inside your head. It actually kicks off this stunning, highly coordinated sequence of mechanical, chemical, and digital transformations. All right, here's our game plan for today. We're going to cover eye anatomy, focus and accommodation, the retina, the journey to the brain, color vision, and finally, light and dark adaptation. Let's get right into it. Starting off with part 1, window to the world, eye anatomy.
Seriously, take a good look at the sheer engineering on display in this cross-section. It's amazing. Notice that tough outer layer, the sclera? That's the white of your eye, holding the whole shebang together. And right inside that, see the choroid? That dark layer packed with blood vessels? It acts like a light sponge, absorbing scattered light so it doesn't bounce around and completely ruin our internal image. Every single structure you see in this animation is designed with one absolute goal: to keep a perfectly focused image on the back of your eye.
And we usually give the lens all the credit, but the real MVP of that focusing power is actually the cornea. It's that clear little bulge right at the front. It does the heavy lifting, giving us over 2/3 of our focusing power, which is about 43 diopters. But to stay that optically perfect, it needs constant maintenance. That's exactly why your lacrimal glands are always pumping out tears to wash over it every single time you blink, keeping it totally smooth and transparent. Moving on to section 2, eye optics, focus and accommodation. Check out how this mechanical process works in motion. It's called accommodation, and it's literally a biological autofocus system. First, as an object gets closer to you, that ring of tissue, the ciliary muscle, contracts. See how that actually releases the tension on the tiny fibers holding your lens? With that slack, the lens naturally bulges out and thickens, which adds up to 15 extra diopters of focusing power. It's a fully automatic zoom lens working flawlessly inside your head. No batteries required.
All right, part 3, the retina, converting light to signals.
Okay, this cross-section is just wild. Look at the incredible layered complexity of these cells. What's super weird is that light actually has to travel all the way through those transparent front layers just to hit the photoreceptors buried at the very back. In fact, because of how complex its structure and signal processing is, anatomists literally consider the retina to be a piece of your brain that just kind of got pushed out into the eye during development. And sitting at the back of that retina is a truly staggering number: 100 million. That's not a typo. That is the number of rod photoreceptors actively working in just one of your eyes right now. To put that into perspective, you've got this massive army of 100 million rod cells spread out everywhere across your retina. They are hypersensitive to light and dark, running your night vision and peripheral sight. On the flip side, you only have about 6 million cone cells. These cones are an elite squad tightly clustered in a tiny central pit called the fovea, and they're the ones completely responsible for giving you sharp, high-res details and rich colors when there's plenty of light. So, how does all this visual data actually get up to the brain? Well, think of the retina like a super advanced analog-to-digital converter. The photoreceptors absorb the light and pump out an analog signal, a continuous chemical flow. But the brain only speaks digital. So the retina compresses that analog signal and hands it off to the ganglion cells at the front. These ganglion cells take it and fire off digital electrical pulses spiking anywhere from 0 to 100 times per second, shooting straight down the optic nerve. Boom! Light is now officially biological data.
Which brings us to section 4, the journey to the brain.
Just follow this visual pathway on the screen. The optic nerve exits the back of the eye and dives deep into the very center of your brain. What's really fascinating here is that the final destination, your primary visual cortex, is located all the way at the very back of your skull. It is quite the commute for those electrical pulses. Follow the arrows here to see how clever this routing system is.
The signals travel down the optic nerve and meet at this intersection called the optic chiasm. Now watch this trick. Information from the left half of your visual field, from both eyes, gets sent over to the right side of the brain, and vice versa. It gets sorted at a little relay station called the LGN, and then finally arrives at the primary visual cortex for the heavy lifting. So the big takeaway here is that your vision is built in distinct layers. Look at how the data flows through these separated channels. The LGN splits the signals up. You've got the magnocellular layers. These are super fast, responding to broad shapes and motion, but without much detail. Then you have the parvocellular layers, which are a bit slower but carry all the high-res details and colors. It's basically your brain physically separating the where is it from the what is it. Let's dive deeper into that what is it in Section 5, Secrets of Color Vision.
Okay, so we have 3 types of cones, right? But they do not act like the simple red, green, and blue pixels on your TV. Instead, they are wired together in this fascinating tug-of-war called an opponent process. Check out the diagram. Notice how the signals are literally pitted against each other. Some cells get really excited by red, but are actively shut down by green. Others get hyped up by blue, but are inhibited by yellow.
Because of this specific wiring, our brain ultimately receives its color info across just 3 channels: an achromatic channel for pure brightness, a blue-yellow channel, and a red-green channel. This biological tug-of-war is exactly why you can easily picture a yellowish red, orange, but you can never ever perceive a reddish green. It's impossible. Your biological hardware physically doesn't allow those 2 specific signals to fire at the exact same time in the same channel.
And finally, Section 6, Light and Dark Adaptation.
Take a second to really look at the staggering extremes represented on this table. Our visual system handles an incredible 12 log unit range of brightness. To put that in everyday terms, that's the difference between trying to find your way by the faint glow of a moonless starlit night versus staring out at a blindingly bright sunlit beach. But obviously, we can't do both at the exact same time.
So how do we survive this extreme shift without going blind? We actually use 3 mechanisms all at once. First is mechanical, your pupil rapidly shrinking or expanding to physically block or allow light. Second is photochemical. The light-sensitive pigments in your retina actually get bleached out in bright light and have to slowly regenerate when it gets dark. And third, neural cells act like a volume dial, actively turning their own sensitivity up or down based on your surroundings. It's a constant, real-time calibration of your hardware.
Which brings us to our final, kind of mind-bending thought. We just followed a photon from the cornea through that dynamic lens, watched it get digitized by the retina and routed through the brain's massive layered architecture. And that leaves us here. The vivid reality of light, depth, motion, and color that you are experiencing literally right now is actually being completely constructed in the absolute pitch-black darkness of your visual cortex. Pretty incredible, right? I hope this explainer gave you a whole new appreciation for the biological miracle happening behind your eyes every single second. Keep learning, stay curious, and I'll catch you in the next one.